I look exactly like the first love of the Prince of City B. When picking up trash, he asked me to be a stand-in. For 10,000 a day, how much can you learn to be like her? I slapped him backhandedly. 10,000, are you trying to dismiss a beggar? Tears welled up in the Prince of City B's eyes. Similar. Too similar. Chapter 1. I don't need to learn. 24 hours a day, I go crazy for 25 hours. Chapter 2. The Prince of City B was moved to tears. Familiar slap. Nostalgic warmth. This is the feeling of love. It's that taste. Over the years, he has searched for many stand-ins, but none gave him this feeling. Me. If you hadn't looked for me earlier, you would have fallen in love already. Chapter 3. The prince's name is Louis, a dominant figure in the capital. He holds a first love in his heart, named Novia, sharp-tongued and crazy, who got married and had a child abroad 3 years ago. In these 3 years, the prince has found many stand-ins. But the taste wasn't quite right. It didn't have that. You know. That kind of exciting and spicy feeling. Right at that moment. With a loud noise in the sky, I make a dazzling entrance. I go crazy, I even scare myself. Chapter 4. Louis is intoxicated by that slap. A smile on his lips, falling into the river of love. I'm holding plastic bottles I picked up, going crazy on the spot. Why are you dawdling? Aren't you going to drive me home? Do you want me to slap you again? Louis shyly and timidly approaches. I do. I was shocked. Family, who understands? Right now, I wish I were an octopus, so I could slap 8 times at once. 8 times are stronger than 1. Chapter 5. Louis helped me carry plastic bottles and cardboard, and we drove back to his house in a luxurious Rolls-Royce Phantom. Just as we arrived home, Louis's mother stood at the door, looking at me with disdain. Louis, where did you pick up this pile of trash from? Get out, you've made a mess of the house. A woman like you still wants to enter the Sinclair house? Look at yourself in the mirror before judging others, are you even worthy? Without a word, I pushed her to the ground and started undoing my pants. Louis's mother frowned. What are you doing? I smirked. Taking a leak. Get the hell out of here. Chapter 6. A scream echoed throughout the entire Sinclair mansion. Louis's mother struggled in fear to get up, pointing at me while trembling. You're just a lunatic. Thanks for the compliment. She glared at me, her face turning paler, gritting her teeth. I won't live under the same roof as you. I understand. I understand perfectly. So? When are you moving out then? Upon hearing this, she rolled her eyes and fainted on the spot. I silently pulled back my hands from undoing my pants, smirking. 3%. I only used 3% of my strength. Chapter 7. That day, an ambulance was called urgently. Louis's mother was carried away on a stretcher. As soon as she left, Louis's father angrily came to settle the score with me. Troublemaker. I knew it, women are all troublemakers. On the first day at home, you caused such a big commotion. I looked at him with a sly smile. Isn't your mother a woman? Louis's father gasped and scolded. In front of everyone, peeing in front of strangers, are you still a woman? If I ask you to take a dump, will you do it too? I've never encountered such a request in my life. One wants to pee, the other to poop. I must say, they truly are a couple. An old married couple. I pondered. After a moment of contemplation, I said. You want it? I have it too. Look. Ask for anything, get anything. Who wouldn't say I provide top-notch service? Chapter 8. Wow, wow. The ambulance came again. They carried Louis's father away too. Double kill. The ambulance is the biggest winner today. Chapter 9. Watching the vehicle leave, I waved my hand and went upstairs to rest. After showering, Louis brought a luxurious custom-made dress. This is a custom-made dress. I command you to change into it and then come have dinner with me. Oh. Quite bold. I lifted my foot and stepped on his face. How dare you speak to me like that? Kneel. As soon as I said this, I felt a bit nervous inside. Was I going too far? But then Louis's face slowly turned red, and he bent his knee, kneeling down in front of me. How did you know I enjoy having my face stepped on? I was shocked. Novia, you little devil. Quite a character. Chapter 10. Aliyah Restaurant. The #1 restaurant in the capital city, not only expensive but also requires booking months in advance to get a table. Louis, as the Prince of City B, effortlessly secured a private room with a wave of his hand. Upon entering, because we had to wait an extra minute, he coldly scolded the waiter. 1 minute. You actually made me wait a whole minute. Get the manager here, you're fired right now. The waiter trembled in fear. I approached Louis and gave him a kick. You have only 1 minute too. The entire restaurant fell into silence. All eyes turned towards us. Just as everyone was worried, Louis blushed, fidgeting nervously. How? How did you know? The air in the restaurant froze instantly. Shock. Pupils dilated. The cool, handsome Prince of City B, privately only had 1 minute. Me, do I even need to guess? I knew at first sight that you're impatient. Chapter 11. The waiter led Louis and me to the private room. As he left, there was a look of admiration in his eyes. After Louis ordered the food, he stared at me with infatuation. Ever since he saw me take his parents to the hospital, he seemed to adore me. Do you remember the first time I celebrated your birthday and gave you black silk stockings? Do you remember? Remember my foot? I'm not really Novia. I snorted. You're crazy. Wear them yourself. As soon as I said that, Louis blushed shyly and lowered his head. Like last time? Okay. I was shocked. What kind of games do you play in private? Chapter 12. Suddenly, the door of the private room was pushed open from outside. A glamorous woman with heavy makeup entered with an imposing air, glanced at me, and sneered. So you're the stand-in Louis brought? Doesn't look like much. Louis, why did you choose her instead of Sarah? Sarah, the adopted daughter of Louis's family, has always had a crush on Louis. As she called out, she swayed her hips, nearly smacking me in the face with her chest. I felt nothing inside. I even thought she could help crack a couple of walnuts. Until she grabbed Louis and said, "Why did you bring her to dinner?" I don't care, big brother, you make her leave right now, we'll eat alone. I stood up and flipped the table directly. Flipped all the tables in the private room. Went crazy on the spot. Twisted. Dark crawling. Grabbed the soup and splattered it all over her face. Eat, eat, eat. Eat more. Let me feed you. Chapter 13. Eat some bok choy. Eat some omelette. I wasn't going mad blindly, but rather emphasizing the balance of meat and vegetables, with 4 dishes and a soup. So Sarah could have a balanced diet. I'm crying. Thanks to my efforts, Sarah ate until she was full. You're really crazy. And just like Novia, both crazy. I wiped my hands on Louis's high-end suit. Get her out. Louis whispered to her. Shan, go back, don't disturb us eating. Big brother really misses Novia. Sarah stormed off in anger. Louis had the waiter change our private room and food. With no Sarah disturbing us, I dug in and began to eat heartily. After we finished, we got down to business. I can be Novia's stand-in, 100,000, daily rate, cash only. I set all the rules. During this time, you will cover all my expenses, until the contract ends. Okay. Louis nodded immediately, prepared to settle the bill and leave. Not even willing to leave a tip. Who said wealthy people are generous? How come even the Prince of City B is so stingy? I stepped forward and confronted him. The waiter helped us clean up the private room, you even scolded him earlier, and now you just want to leave like this? Hearing this, Louis obediently took out his wallet and threw 10,000 on the table. The waiter received the largest tip of his career, instantly grateful and tightly holding my hand. Living Bodhisattva, you must come often in the future. Plow the strong to support the weak, rob the rich to help the poor. Chapter 14. Returning home in the evening, Louis's parents were not there. They were probably still at the hospital receiving oxygen. So envious. Being able to quietly lie down and rest, unlike me, still having to work hard to earn money. I suspect they did it on purpose. Those little clever devils. At this moment, Louis pouted. Step on me. Step on me hard. Having just finished dinner, feeling full and a bit absent-minded, I lightly tapped him. Louis actually got upset. Such weak strength, haven't you eaten? I immediately kicked him twice. Making you go crazy. Chapter 15. Every profession is not easy, all the money earned is hard-earned money. Chapter 16. In the evening, after Louis finished showering, wrapped up like a rice dumpling, he awkwardly walked out. As soon as he saw me sitting on the bed, he looked nervous, like a good woman seeing a thug. Although I hired you to be Novia's stand-in, I will not have any relations with you. My heart belongs only to Novia, I will remain faithful to her. I rolled my eyes. Do you think bedazzling your undercarriage impresses me? I came to collect today's wages. It was agreed upon earlier, daily payments. Louis breathed a sigh of relief, opened the safe, and took out 100,000. I took the money, turned to leave. Just as I reached the door, Louis suddenly spoke up. In the past, Novia used to sing me to sleep every day. He looked at me expectantly. I nodded. Then beckoned him over. Come here. Louis immediately ran over excitedly, full of anticipation. How are you planning to sing me to sleep? I raised my hand and chopped his neck with a karate chop. Louis rolled his eyes and fell back on the bed. Asleep. And very peaceful. Chapter 17. I am the best at soothing people to sleep. Chapter 18. The next day, Louis's parents returned. At that moment, I was teasing Louis with a whip, and Louis was screaming and looking ecstatic. As soon as the two elderly parents who had just been discharged entered, they saw this scene. And their entire beings aged several years rapidly, their figures swaying, almost heading back to the hospital. After dinner, as I returned to my room, I saw them waiting inside with smiles on their faces. Oh. Couldn't handle it hard, so trying soft now? Louis's mother smiled and said. I heard that Louis picked you up from the roadside? After you came, you treated this place as your own home, don't be polite. I said okay, then walked over, lifted the blanket, lay down, and started to sleep. Louis's father was stunned. We're still here, how can you sleep? Isn't this my home? He angrily took a deep breath. Louis's mother, being well-traveled, quickly spoke again. We heard from Louis that you are Novia's stand-in, but your relationship is inappropriate. You took the money, how can you still scold him? In their eyes, as a stand-in, one should be humble, submissive, and like a nanny, taking care of their whole family obediently. I sternly retorted. Do you think I enjoy doing this? Louis's mother's eyes lit up. So you don't enjoy it? I said. I love it to death. Chapter 19. Both of their smiles froze, revealing their displeasure. Are you willing to continue like this for the rest of your life? I laughed. Earning 100,000 a day, a level of happiness that could make me wake up laughing from a dream. Laughing on one side, praying on the other to continue dreaming in the next life. Louis's mother asked again. Don't you have any dreams? Of course, I do. If a person has no dreams, what's the difference between them and a salted fish? In fact, from the day I can remember, I have had a clear plan for my own life. What do you want? We can fulfill your wishes. I want to strive to be a person with side effects on society. I clenched my fist. Achieved it. Louis's parents were dumbfounded on the spot. I shook the blanket, lay down, and fell asleep. Remember to turn off the lights before you go out. The two of them were trembling with anger. Standing in place, trembling for half a minute, turning off the lights, gently closing the door, then leaving. Such good people. I yawned, wiped away the tears from the corner of my eyes, moved. But not moved by 100,000. Chapter 20. High-end alarm clocks often only need to use the simplest methods. In the early morning, a crazy sound woke up the entire Sinclair household. Louis put on his clothes, his expression restrained but expectant. I was about to kick him. Just as Louis's parents came downstairs, they were shocked to see this scene before them, even their drowsiness was startled away. Heartbroken. Can't bear to look. Stop. As long as I'm alive, I won't allow you to do this kind of thing at home. No more hitting in the future. Taking money and still resorting to violence, you get what you pay for. I've never seen a stand-in like you. Upon hearing this, I kicked even harder. Kick. Kick with force. Otherwise, earning 100,000 a day, I wouldn't feel at ease. Louis's mother ran over in anger. Louis is crying because of you, didn't you see that? As she spoke, she cried sorrowfully. I turned to look and indeed saw Louis wiping his tears. In the next second, the mother and son were about to cry in pain, but Louis suddenly looked up and accused. Mom, Dad, I have this one hobby, why do you want to deprive me of my happiness? Hit harder. Use more force. Wow. Exciting. Louis's mother was so scared that she pushed him away. Disgusting. What a filthy thing. Chapter 21. Louis's parents looked at their son in horror. The elderly couple, both over 60, had experienced many hardships in their lives, seen a lot in the world. But nothing like this. Their beloved son's peculiar hobby had a tremendous impact on their aging souls. They were speechless with tears. I never expected Louis to turn out like this. How will we live in the coming decades? I tried to comfort them. Look on the bright side, maybe you won't live for decades either? The old couple pushed me away. Can't blame them. The truth hurts. Suddenly, a commotion was heard from outside. Everyone from the Sinclair family, come out. I ran outside to check. A few gangsters were standing outside, arrogantly smashing things. I warn you, that piece of land belongs to our boss. Either return the land or pay up, 100 billion, not a word less. Rich people fear nothing more than those who don't value their lives. Louis's parents didn't dare to approach, quietly explaining. Our company bought a piece of land, compensated the residents as agreed, but after they moved out. This dragon brother suddenly appeared, claiming the land was his and demanding money from us. We've investigated, he's just a thug, a rogue, he doesn't own that land, he's simply trying to extort money from us. I stood by watching the show. One of the hooligans smashing flower pots suddenly noticed me. Hey, there's a girl here, quite pretty, let's take her back and show her brother's big treasure. As he spoke, he came over lecherously trying to grab my hand. I went berserk on the spot. Twisted. Crawling on all fours. I pulled out a knife and rushed towards him to grab his pants. How big of a treasure? Let me measure it. The hooligan's face changed immediately, protecting his crotch. Let go of me. Are you a beast? I lay on the ground, twisted and laughing. Licking the blade. Measure it. Give it to me. Everyone was shocked, clutching their crotches, scared and fleeing in all directions. Chapter 22. They just left, and the police arrived immediately. I was screaming on the ground, twisting, crawling in the darkness. The police surrounded me in unison. Danger. Unidentified creature approaching. Who dares to scold me like this? I'd like to see who's so impolite. Just as I was about to turn around, I suddenly heard another familiar voice. She's not an unidentified creature. Following that, a familiar figure walked up to me, dressed in a police uniform, tall in stature, handsome features exuding a reassuring air of gallantry and righteousness. While everyone else was frantically backing away, he reached out his hand towards me with a smile and asked, "What are you doing here?" I stood up feeling embarrassed, giving a smile. Long time no see, Captain Jeff. Chapter 23. Jeff. The captain of the police department. Back when I used to wander around, scavenging with the homeless, other cops would chase us away, but Jeff would buy buns and boxed meals, giving them to us for free. In the eyes of all the homeless, he was a great guy. I tidied up my messy hair. Jeff didn't mind at all. He even saw me fighting with stray dogs for food, much more disheveled than now. "I went to the overpass a couple of days ago, didn't see you, thought you had left." "No, I've found a new job now." "What kind of job is it?" I pondered for a moment. "Physical labor." Referring to beating up Lewis. "Psychological counseling." Referring to playing the body double. And learning to make peace with oneself. Referring to going crazy, twisting, and unleashing death on everyone equally, anytime, anywhere. Chapter 24. Jeff breathed a sigh of relief. "Actually, the last time I went to see you, it was to prepare an ID card for you so you can find a job in the future." "That's right. I've been an orphan since I was young, raised by homeless women who scavenged through garbage, never seeing my parents. No name, no identification. People who roamed with me called me Lulu." "Lulu, are you still willing to get it now?" I nodded immediately. Without an ID before, I could only scavenge through garbage. If I could get it done, I could find a job in the future. Jeff smiled and reached out to pat my head. "All right, I'll arrange it for you right away." We exchanged numbers, and then Jeff turned to Lewis's parents and said, "If those people dare to come again in the future, just call me directly. I'll handle it. Don't let Lulu take risks. She's a girl, there could be danger." Lewis's parents' eyes almost popped out. "Is it others who are in danger? Didn't you see how she went crazy just now?" Jeff glared at them. "That's called self-defense. Lovely, isn't it?" Chapter 25. After the police left, I held the knife and was ready to go back to my room. Passing through the living room, Lewis's father suddenly rushed over and grabbed my hand, tears of gratitude streaming down his face. "You truly are our family's savior." For the past 6 months, because of that piece of land, the Sinclair family had been harassed by those hooligans, causing trouble every now and then. They were completely helpless. Today, those people were defeated for the first time. Lewis's father was in tears. "But I worry, what if they come to the company next time? I can teach you, 50,000, guaranteed success." "Deal." Standing beside him, Lewis's mother was shocked. "Wait, you too?" Before she could finish, I started teaching on the spot. Lying on the ground, twisting, screaming, crawling in the darkness. Lewis's father followed my lead. Lying on the ground, twisting, screaming, crawling in the darkness. That day, Lewis's father came out victorious. However, Lewis's mother was taken away in an ambulance. That's life, with its gains and losses. Chapter 26. When Lewis returned, his father and I were crawling on all fours in the living room. He stayed silent for a full 2 minutes, then suggested going to the hospital together. Standing outside the ward, I overheard Lewis's mother saying, "Lewis, can you please kick that Lulu out? She's been living in our house, and it's getting weirder and weirder. She's Novia's stand-in." "I know, you just like it when she hits you, don't you?" "Mom, you can hit me too." After saying that, Lewis's mother, who was gravely ill, suddenly sat up in shock. Smack. She gave him 2 big slaps. How does that feel? Louis didn't say a word. Smack. 2 more. I stood at the door, hesitating for a moment. Oh well. I decided not to disturb their intense mother-son moment and didn't go in. Chapter 27. When Louis came out, his cheeks were swollen, looking lifeless. I have no idea what he and his mother talked about. After Louis's mother was discharged, she unexpectedly took me to a party. The attendees were all rich ladies, dressed to the nines. After just 2 sips of coffee, they started making sarcastic remarks. Thinking they were going to talk about me, I was surprised when they targeted Louis's mother instead. Heard the gangsters came to bother your family again? If those people see us with you, will they come to bother us? Maybe you shouldn't come here anymore. Louis's mother turned pale and couldn't respond. Those rich ladies continued their indiscriminate attacks. Never thought you'd bring someone like this today. Heard she used to be a beggar, hands full of bacteria, who knows if she carries infectious diseases. I stood up and spat directly in her face. Everyone was stunned. What are you doing? I have AIDS. I said. And then continued to spit. Flowers flying in the sky. Everyone was terrified, their faces turning pale, screaming and running away. A bunch of scumbags. I calmly sat back down, ready to continue eating cake when suddenly Louis's mother grabbed my hand. She looked at me with sparkling eyes. From now on, we are sisters. Real sisters. Feeling unworthy, I quickly declined. No, cash will do. That day, my newly opened bank account had an extra $2 million in it. Chapter 28. Louis and his parents truly were a family. Their main focus was on a level of treating money as dirt. With friends like these, I was all in. Chapter 29. Since my rise to fame, Louis's parents' level of affection for me skyrocketed. I made a move, they handed me the whip. I lifted my foot, they handed me the shoe. When Sarah came back, she was shocked. Mom, Dad, how could you stoop so low? I absolutely refused to let her stay in our house. After saying that, she angrily ran off to the bar to get drunk. Louis's mother comforted me. Lulu, Sarah is straightforward and speaks without thinking. She doesn't yet understand your value. Don't be sad, here's $500,000, go buy some clothes and relax. I accepted the money. I didn't need new clothes, I was happy as I was. That day, instead of going to the mall, I called Jeff and arranged to meet him under a bridge where we used to hang out, with my newly obtained documents. As I walked past an alley, I suddenly saw 2 people inside struggling. Hey, pretty lady, come play with me, I guarantee you'll like it. Who are you? I don't know you. The girl's voice sounded familiar. I couldn't help but look a little longer and then saw Sarah being pulled by a guy. She seemed drunk, swaying, unable to break free. I'll call for help. The guy smirked, trying to lift her short skirt. You can call all you want, no one will come. He said. I took a deep breath, mustered all my strength, and screamed at the top of my lungs. Chapter 29. The man trembled in fear. Who's there? Who dares to disturb me, I'll kill you. I twisted wildly, tossing my hair, crawling on the ground towards him, unleashing a terrifying ghostly appearance. Come on. Come at me. The alley was dimly lit, and the man was instantly frightened, running away in panic. Sarah rushed over, hugging me tightly, crying loudly. He kept pulling me, I kept saying no, thank goodness you were here, otherwise I'd be done for. I took a step back. No, didn't step back. All right. Now her chest really slapped against my face. Cry again, and I'll smack you. Sarah blushed, touched, and said. Lulu, you really care about me. I was shocked. The people in the Sinclair family really have some serious issues. Chapter 30. I helped her out of the alley and ran into Jeff outside. He handcuffed the scumbag who was running away and was questioning him. Captain Jeff, so you caught this guy. Jeff was dressed casually today, looking more handsome, effortlessly restraining the man. I came to deliver some documents to you and saw this guy acting suspiciously nearby, so I caught him for questioning. Do you know him? This guy stole things from my friend and harassed her. Upon hearing this, Jeff got serious instantly. I'll take him to the police station right now. Finishing his words, he lifted the man and headed towards the nearest police station. Sarah, still shaken, stayed close to me, holding onto my clothes and crying. Lulu, I'm sorry for how I treated you before. Tears had smudged her eye makeup, making her look like a ghost. It's okay, I also splattered soup on your face that day. Upon hearing this, Sarah felt a bit embarrassed. Actually, the food you fed me that day was quite delicious, let's go together next time. As she spoke, she held my hand. I suddenly realized that if you ignore the ghostly makeup on her face, Sarah actually looks quite cute. Chapter 31. After handing over the scumbag to other police officers, Jeff came out and handed me some documents. These are the documents I arranged for you. With these, you won't be an undocumented resident anymore, you can go to school, work, and get a job. I was delighted. I really wanted these things. Thank you. Jeff gave a slight smile and patted my head. No problem, if you need anything in the future, just come find me, like before. He drove us back home. As soon as he left, Sarah exclaimed excitedly. That policeman is so handsome. Even more handsome than my brother. Captain Jeff is known as the police force's visual representative. Not only is he good-looking, but he also has a good character and is willing to help others. I turned to Sarah and asked. What's this? Have you developed a crush? No, I just think he and you, Lulu, make a good match. Me? I'm currently employed by your brother as Novia's stand-in. Mentioning Louis, Sarah rolled her eyes, showing a completely different attitude from before. What kind of person does he think he is? Women change their minds faster than 5G. Chapter 32. After this incident, Sarah changed a lot. She removed the heavy makeup from her face, revealing a clean and tender face. Even her clothes changed to a style more suitable for her age group, making her look like a cute and innocent girl. She picked up her backpack and started studying seriously. Louis's parents were moved to tears. Sarah, it's so good to see you've come to your senses. Sarah shyly looked at me. It was Lulu who helped me. Hearing this, all the members of the Sinclair family looked at me as if I were a living bodhisattva. The kind that can go crazy at any time. Sarah started to be overly polite towards me. I'm not used to being treated with such formality. And sure enough, within 2 days, she was already unhappy. Lulu, do you not see me as a friend? I didn't understand. Sarah said. You've been too polite to me lately, you just said please to me, how could you say please to me? I was shocked. Pushing the table forward, sticking out my tongue, I went crazy on the spot. Don't dilly-dally with me, pass me the cup. Sarah quickly handed me the water cup, then held my hand and said. Sister Lulu, I feel a little closer to you again. Chapter 33. The family. I've said it before, this family is not normal. Chapter 34. My position in the Sinclair family has been skyrocketing, promoted to the group's favorite. They were very indignant about Louis using me as a stand-in. At this moment, on my left was Louis's mom, on my right was Sarah, with Louis's dad standing behind, scolding Louis who had just returned home. I still don't support this stand-in matter. Louis explained. Mom, Dad, you don't need to worry, she's just pretending to be Novia to hit me, she won't really hurt me. Louis's mom rolled her eyes. Pa? Who's worrying about this? If you want to hit, just hit, it's no big deal. Louis was puzzled. Louis's dad said. We feel that letting Lulu be your stand-in is really bullying her. I shook my hands repeatedly. No. Absolutely not bullying. I'm making 100,000 a day, I'm having a great time. I'm paying her a salary, 100,000 a day. Louis's mom disdainfully said. Only 100,000, why not just give it to her directly? Lulu's help to our family is worth more than just this money, we've long treated her like a daughter. If you say that, I might just take it seriously. Louis frowned, looking puzzled. And recently, he clearly felt his position at home was rapidly declining. Before, when he was hit, his parents would be there to console him. Now, they would hand me a little whip proactively. I just went to work, why did my house get stolen? I shrugged. Instead of asking others, reflect on yourself. After speaking, I took out a glove from the drawer and put it on. This was bought by Louis's mom for me, seeing me hitting Louis every day, feeling my hand hurt. I waved to Louis. Come on, let's settle this quickly. Chapter 35. After Louis left, Sarah softly said. Brother still can't forget about Novia. Having been at the Sinclair house for so long, it was the first time I heard them mention Novia, so I immediately perked up my ears. Louis's mom said. 5 years ago, Novia and Louis were in love, but then, for some reason, Novia suddenly left. Louis searched for her for a year, and when he heard news, she already had a child by her side. Louis couldn't bear the blow, he tried to take his own life several times, was in a low mood all the time, until you appeared and made him pull himself together again. Although he sees you as Novia, you saved his life. I didn't expect Louis to still be a sentimental type. They looked at me, their eyes shining. So, what you're saying is? Louis's mom said. Please, from now on, hit him hard, don't let him think about taking his life. Okay. I've got this. Let's do it. That day, wearing gloves, I went straight to Louis's room. He frowned at me. My mom said I should treat you well, but I'm sorry, my heart only has Novia in it. I understood. Every time I hit him, Louis would mumble this name. It's all right, in my heart, you're just an ATM. Louis breathed a sigh of relief, saying. That's good, from now on, we'll just be friends. But your mom said she wants us to be like sisters. Louis was speechless. From now on, you call me auntie, I'll call you boss, we'll each mind our own business. That doesn't sound appropriate. Louis frowned, before he could finish, I gave him a big slap. How dare you speak to your aunt like that? He widened his eyes. How could you start without a greeting? And hit me? Wait. So exciting. Louis's parents stood in the corridor, hearing this sound, they smiled contentedly. That's probably what family love is like. Chapter 36. A week later, while I was chatting with Jeff at the police station, I suddenly received a message. Novia was back. Novia came back with her, along with a little boy. I rushed to the airport and saw Louis glaring at Novia with red eyes. You've already left, why come back? Do you think I still have feelings for you? I've long forgotten about you. Take your child and leave, I don't want to see you again. I don't know who, upon hearing the news, hurriedly came to the airport. People die, dig up the grave after 500 years, and the mouth is still stubborn. Saying these things now. While speaking, tears streamed down. I carefully observed the person standing opposite me. To prevent Louis from being hurt by the past, everything related to Novia in the Sinclair house had been thrown away. Until now, I finally saw her face. Novia and I do look very similar, but the vibes we give off are completely different. Novia appeared very gentle, the epitome of a lady, charming and pleasant, making it hard to imagine her being so unrestrained in private. And me. Consistently wild. At this moment, she lowered her head, looking pitiful, making it hard to blame her. I sighed in amazement, slowly shifting my gaze downwards to the child. Wait. How come this little boy looks exactly like Louis? Chapter 37. After returning from the airport, Louis completely turned emo. But his mouth was still as stubborn as ever. I don't like her anymore, I don't love her. 3 years ago, I already sealed my heart with cement, her return is useless. In this world, love is the most unreliable thing. As hard as a diamond, his mouth was just as hard. Louis's parents were very worried about his situation, they came to me several times, asking me to hit him. Hit him hard. So I went. Slapping him twice, Louis remained indifferent. No, I don't feel a thing, just no feeling. I didn't believe this, turned around and grabbed a kitchen knife. Today, I'll make him see if I'm capable or not. Sarah stopped me in shock. Lulu, don't. Don't use such a small knife. I have an axe, do you want it? I was shocked. Sarah, you've got something on you. Chapter 38. The next day, I went out to find Jeff, coincidentally running into Louis along the way. After walking for a while, we suddenly saw Novia walking towards us. Louis's body stiffened abruptly. Quick. Pretend to be a couple with me, I want to make her regret. I can't lose. I rolled my eyes. This is not within my job description. I'll give you 100,000. Money can buy my work, but it can't buy my soul. 300,000. My soul is noble. 50,000. Deal. I took his hand and walked confidently in that direction. Novia, witnessing this scene, had a touch of sadness in her eyes. Louis was still stubborn. She must be regretting leaving me now. I stayed silent, silently repeating in my mind. 50,000, 50,000, 50,000. Earning hard-earned money isn't easy. Endure and it will pass. There's nothing in this world that can stop me from making money. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared on the opposite street corner. Wearing a uniform, with handsome and tough features, his gaze particularly gentle. It's Jeff. He was looking in our direction, seeming to misunderstand. Bang. I turned directly and kicked Louis away. Louis rolled on the ground, in a very embarrassing posture, and thudded down, kneeling in front of Novia. Sorry. I can't earn this money. Chapter 39. Louis became even more emo. He started drinking all day long. Louis's parents were afraid he would ruin himself at a young age, so they came to ask for my help. I'm also afraid he'll ruin himself, especially since there's still a final payment pending. Soon, I arranged to meet Novia. As soon as we sat down, she apologized to me. I'm sorry, I didn't expect that after I left, Louis would find you to be my stand-in. It's unfair to you. I waved it off nonchalantly. Actually, I'm quite satisfied with this job. Getting paid to beat someone up. How many people dream of such a life? I cut to the chase and asked. They all say that you got married and had a child abroad in these 3 years. I saw your child at the airport that day, and he looks almost identical to Louis. I had my suspicions back then. There must have been some issues between Novia and Louis. It was evident from that child. But the Sinclair family members seemed utterly clueless, probably blind, I guess. Novia sighed. He is indeed Louis's child. As expected. Just as I thought. What really happened 3 years ago? Novia furrowed her brow, showing a hint of sadness. At that time, Louis and I were deeply in love. Once, when I went to see him, I accidentally overheard him saying to Sarah that he didn't like me. In a fit of anger, I chose to go abroad, only to find out that I was already 3 months pregnant. Upon hearing this, I cursed under my breath. Ugh, what a scumbag. Novia continued. This time coming back, I realized I couldn't let go of him, but I didn't expect that he no longer had me in his heart, he said so himself. I was shocked. No way. Big sister. As Louis spoke, tears streamed down his face, how could I believe this? And just like now. Louis must have followed at some point without me noticing, standing outside the window, his gaze fixed on Novia through the glass, tears flowing like a faucet. Novia, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. He came in and hugged Novia tightly. Novia pushed him away as she turned around. You go, I've decided to go abroad again. No, don't leave. It was a misunderstanding 3 years ago. At that time, Sarah always liked me, with an intense personality, wanting to harm you. I had to lie to deceive her, but I didn't expect you to overhear. When you left, I thought you didn't want me anymore. Later, when I heard you got married and had a child abroad, I saw the photos, my heart sank. I never imagined that child was mine. He cried as he spoke. The misunderstanding was finally cleared up. Novia listened, tears streaming down her face. She turned and hugged him. Louis, I missed you so much. Novia, I missed you too. Louis. Novia. I stood up. Applauding. Smiling. Are you two done? Can we stop with the drama? Chapter 40. Novia and Louis were in their own world. At that moment, a couple nearby seemed to want to cut in. Bunch of lunatics. Hurry up and leave, clear the table for us to eat. Novia glanced at me. Together, we flipped the table over. Twisted, darkly crawling. 1 + 1 is greater than 2. The effect was quite explosive. Eat, 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 all you know is cutting in line. Hurrying to be reborn, huh? Ugh. Cutting in line, were you a plug in your past life? The two were scared off and fled. Novia and I shared a smile. Instant connection. Louis beside us had a sweet expression. Novia, you haven't changed, still the same as before. Novia immediately turned and kicked him. I haven't settled the score with you yet. How could you say those things? Could I not misunderstand after hearing that? How dare you pretend to act and anger me? Watch me beat you to death. Louis laughed while reaching for her hand, even tenderly blowing on it. Novia, let's settle this at home, okay? Get lost. Watching from the side, I noticed Louis's different attitude. When I used to stand in as a substitute to fight him, there was always a mix of melancholy and madness in Louis's eyes, as if he wanted to numb his feelings with pain. But now, his expression is sweet, happy, and content. You little. And you say you're not a masochist? Chapter 41. Novia and Louis reconciled as before. After Sarah heard the reason for their misunderstanding, she personally came to apologize, almost wanting to apologize to death. A few days later, I took the initiative to find Louis and proposed to terminate the contract. Louis was happily holding his baby son, looking like a fool. Thanks to you, Novia and I were able to reconcile as before. I'm really grateful to you. Just verbal thanks? Louis smiled and said. In addition to the final payment we agreed on before, I will add another 10 million as a token of appreciation. Deal. Louis and I only ever had an employment relationship. Money was all I really wanted. A large sum of money came in, and I was so happy I couldn't sleep for days. Transferring tens of millions couldn't be done through the phone, so I had to personally go to the bank. Unexpectedly, while waiting for a car at the intersection, I was kidnapped. The kidnappers were very professional, using a sack to cover my head. I could have broken free, but it was pitch black all around, and I couldn't resist, so I fell asleep. I was taken away while I slept. I don't know how long passed, I was dreaming when suddenly someone woke me up. Opening my eyes, I saw several familiar faces. It was actually the group of thugs I had caused trouble for at the Sinclairs' house last time. After I scared them off before, they had disappeared without a trace, but unexpectedly, they showed up now. The person in front was wearing a mask, trying to conceal their identity. Unfortunately, the mask was too loose, and I recognized them at a glance. Do you know who I am? He asked. I nodded. I know, it's you, Gigi. It was the one I almost cut down to measure him. Speechless. Why did you kidnap me? Regretting it now? Want me to measure again? I really don't understand you men. Gigi's henchman instinctively covered his crotch. It seems that incident left a deep shadow on him. All right, we'll talk about measuring later. Let me sleep a bit more. I was just dreaming and counting money, getting excited as I counted. Even the King of Heaven couldn't disturb me. Closing my eyes, about to enter dreamland, Gigi suddenly kicked a pot on the ground. Clang clang crash. Once again, I was awakened. Gigi's tone was still as loud as before. You dare to sleep? I've already found out, your name is Novia, Lewis's girlfriend. Now that you're in our hands, no matter how much money you want, the Sinclair family can only obediently provide it. Damn it. Speechless. These people got it wrong. They mistook me for Novia. A bunch of blind fools. And they even disturbed me while I was dreaming and counting money. I was truly angry. Chapter 42. Gigi was still being arrogant. Later, I'll make a call for money. First, ask for 50 million, and then. What? I worked hard to earn 30 million, and you dare to ask for 50 million? I got so mad that I stood up directly, kicked a chair leg off, and broke free from the ropes on me. I grabbed Gigi by the collar. How much? How much do you want? The others quickly surrounded me. There are so many of us, are you afraid of just one of you? I went crazy right away. You can never imagine how insane someone can be who hasn't slept for a few days, just fell asleep, and was then rudely awakened. I picked up a steel pipe from the ground and waved it in the air continuously, crawling on all fours, messy hair covering my face, with only one eye visible. I'll kill you all. One by one. Let you be buried with me. While shouting, I fiercely smashed the steel pipe down towards the chair. The chair instantly shattered. Everyone was scared silly. Madman. Run. They dropped what they were holding and started fleeing in all directions. As they tried to run out, I directly sprinted forward and locked the door. Laughing maniacally, I looked at them through strands of hair. You're surrounded by me. Several hooligans turned pale in an instant, huddling together. Gigi sat down directly on the ground, lifted up by me. Why are you running? I'm not going to chop you into mincemeat to feed the dogs. Actually, I just want to have a chat with the brothers. We don't want to be your brothers, okay? I pulled out a knife from my pocket. Tilting my head. How about being sisters then? Gigi started crying. Sister, I was wrong. I'll have someone take you back now and apologize to you. I didn't leave. I hadn't had enough fun yet. Chapter 43. It was late afternoon. Outside, there was a faint sound of footsteps. I heard Jeff's voice. One group enters through the window, two groups go up to the roof, ready to support at any time, the rest follow me, we charge in. Captain, forced blasting is too dangerous, aren't you always the calmest one? What's wrong today? Jeff said. I can't stay calm because the person I like is inside. I blushed and felt a bit embarrassed. Gigi, who was sitting beneath me with a swollen face, whispered. It seems like he likes you. I gave him a strong punch. Do you really need to say that? I stood up, straightened my clothes, walked to the door, and right before they burst in, I opened the door with a bang. Outside, Jeff was there with the police in full gear. The Sinclair family members stood nearby, looking worried. As soon as Jeff saw me, he froze. Lulu? I grinned. I'm fine. Before I could finish speaking, I was pulled out. Jeff carefully checked me over, made sure I wasn't hurt, and then hugged me tightly. No more messing around. Wait for me to come save you. The police entered in an orderly fashion. In the warehouse, 7 or 8 kidnappers were bruised and swollen, piled up haphazardly. The Sinclair family members also followed closely, surrounding me with concern. Lewis's mother was crying so much her eyes were swollen. Lulu, how are you? Are you hurt? I shook my head. They thought I was Novia, kidnapped me for ransom, but they are not my match. You guys probably didn't prepare any money, right? We did. Lewis's dad said. As soon as we received the kidnapper's call, we realized they had the wrong person, but you are our recognized daughter. No matter how much money, we are willing to give it, just hoping for your safety." As he spoke, he pointed to several large boxes on the ground filled with ransom money. I was a bit surprised. I had thought I was just a stand-in for Novia, that the Sinclair family wouldn't care if I was kidnapped, but they were worried to this extent, even preparing so much ransom money. I looked at them and said sincerely, "Thank you." Chapter 44. That day, the kidnappers were all captured. They all received third-class honors, with each person at the police station receiving a share and then some. After the Sinclair family brought me back, they were extremely caring towards me. A week later, I officially moved out of the Sinclair family's home, Louis's parents and Sarah crying tears and snot. During the time we spent together, they had already considered me part of the family. "Lulu, why don't you stay and be my goddaughter? How can I rest assured if you're alone outside?" I held a heavy bank card, feeling much more confident than before. "Don't worry, I have 30 million in savings now." Louis's dad, upon hearing this, felt heartbroken. "Only 30 million, how is that enough to live on?" "I'll give you another 20 million. The children of the Sinclair family must not be short of money." I was shocked. I could only weakly respond with a "okay." Louis's mom added, "Have you found a place to live?" "Not yet." "Perfect, we still have a 200 square meter flat in the city center. Tomorrow I'll transfer it to you, you can go live there for the time being." A 200 square meter flat. Live there for the time being? Can I still call you a mom now? Staying would indeed mean a lifetime of worry-free living, but I already had a new plan for the future. Not the kind of plan that has side effects on society, but a completely new plan that can only be accomplished with money. I first signed up for a cram school, used the money I earned to buy study materials and books, and began studying. I want to go to college. Chapter 45. When I was wandering outside before, I never went to school, but the female wanderer who raised me taught me how to write and gave me knowledge. I collected textbooks and practice questions from the trash can, under the bridge, writing over and over with branches. I once saw students of the same age as me carrying school bags, happily going to school. At that time, I had no money and was still an undocumented resident. But now, Jeff helped me get identification. The Sinclair family provided me with enough funds to support my dream. I started going to cram school every day, studying hard, burning the midnight oil. Because I had never been to school, learning was extremely difficult for me. At the beginning, my test scores were only single digits. Gradually, Jeff, Sarah, and Novia also came to teach me how to solve problems. My grades began to improve gradually. From single digits to double digits. From single tens to tens. Every small progress made me excited. After 2 years of hard work, at the age of 22, I finally fulfilled my dream and entered university. September. The autumn air was crisp. Jeff and the Sinclair family accompanied me to report for registration. A police car led the way in front, followed by 4 or 5 luxury cars. A grand procession, very imposing. "Lulu, are you sure you want to stay in the dormitory? Auntie will buy you a nearby apartment, it will be more convenient." "Staying in the dormitory is indeed inconvenient, and you have your car, why don't you drive the Bentley Uncle bought you? Riding a small electric scooter is so dangerous." "Lulu, I'm at the neighboring school, so I can come to see you often in the future. Are you all being too cautious? She's not a child." Louis muttered, and Novia, holding their child, slapped him. "You, a man, what do you understand?" A few months ago, they had just given birth to their second child, a girl. Their eldest son was only 5 years old, holding my hand, giving me advice. "Auntie, if anyone dares to bully you, you just act crazy. Scare them to death." I nodded. "No problem, this is what I'm best at." At the school, Jeff busily helped me move things and complete the registration procedures. He had a good physique and strength, easily lifting 2 pieces of luggage and swiftly walking upstairs. He made my bed. If you're hungry, tell me, don't eat instant noodles randomly. If someone bullies you, tell me, I'll bring the police to arrest them. He admonished me several times and sighed as he patted my head in the end. You heartless person, saying you'll stay in the dormitory and actually staying there. I have a house nearby, you know that. I was so scared that I quickly covered his mouth. No more talking. This is something I haven't told anyone else. I finally experienced the long-awaited student life. Just like I had imagined for the past 20 years, strolling around the campus, attending classes in the classroom, and jostling for food in the cafeteria. Occasionally going crazy, twisting and crawling. I didn't just sit around idly, I made some small investments with the money I had. At first, there were gains and losses, but gradually it became more stable and profitable, growing more and more. 4 years later, when I officially graduated, my savings had doubled. In the second year after graduation, I started a company that mainly focused on the service industry, with most employees being homeless people. Some of them came from under the bridges, some from the riverside. I had received help from them in one way or another in the past. Some of them wanted to change their current situation but struggled due to a lack of means. I came to provide them with a way. In the first year, my company had a total of 50 new employees. In the second year, it increased to 100. In the third year, 300 people. The scale kept growing, steadily moving forward. In the fourth year, I made it to the list of the top 10 outstanding young people in the country. I was getting ready to go for an interview when I just stepped out and saw Chief Jeff holding a bouquet of flowers, kneeling down on one knee. Lulu, will you marry me? His gaze was as gentle as ever. It had never changed, whether it was when I was wandering, acting as a substitute to earn money, or now. I went crazy on the spot. Screaming, twisting, crawling over in the dark, I took the flowers from his hands, then nodded in the soft gaze of Jeff. Yes.